What's up, y'all? YouTube land. What is happening? I hope everyone's feeling well and doing well. So this is CC Talk yet again. Yeah, I wanted to come through and talk about this article done by the Hollywood Reporter that dropped today. Talking about Sony fights lawsuit alleging it plotted to destroy Days of Our Lives. Now here we go again. This whole thing of like Sony wants to dump Days of Our Lives. I mean, I will leave the link at the bottom yet again. Basically, I'm just going to summarize the article. Again, if you want to read it, by all means, go ahead, open up the article and read it yourself. But basically, just to summarize, Sony is pretty much just contesting in their lawsuit that Corday put out a lawsuit against them. Like I told y'all in the previous couple of videos back, that Ken Corday was planning to sue Sony. How Days of Our Lives is being treated through Sony, and how Sony is yet again trying to get rid of it. Well, Sony is basically saying yet again through their lawyer team, and they are saying things like basically it was easy to make these kind of claims that they're just easily trying to just cut Days of Our Lives just to cut Days of Our Lives if there were still 18 soaps left. But Days of Our Lives' numbers aren't as strong as opposed to Young and Restless, or say General Hospital in 18 or 49, so to speak. And Ken Corday's lawyer team, and I guess Corday as well, is basically saying, well, y'all are doing a piss poor job at promoting Days of Our Lives. Y'all are not doing y'all's part as a production company to make sure that Days of Our Lives is being pushed thoroughly in the pop culture. And Sony is also saying things like Days of Our Lives has a $12 million deficit, issues, you know, it also says something else. Budget over, was it some budget overages and split costs and whatever else. And so Sony is also saying that basically Corday has no business trying to terminate his contract, agreement with Sony. But I'm like, hell, if you want to get rid of it, I mean, why can he not? We can say a lot of things about Ken Corday. I have said my things about Ken Corday. I know a lot of the Days of Our Lives and soap fans around the internet has always criticized Ken Corday for not wanting to go balls to the wall and trying to fight for Days of Our Lives, like other producers and other executives around other networks do with their shows. But I'm truly, truly believing that he wants to save his parents' legacy, because it's now his legacy now. I mean, it was passed down when his mother Betty died in the 80s. It got passed down to him, whether he liked it or not. It became his legacy. And I understand what Ken Corday is talking about with that whole like Sony isn't trying to what's it called, push Days of Our Lives more into the pop culture by, giving them the promotion that they deserve. Amen to that. It's true. I have said that in many of videos that, in my past videos, that Days of Our Lives could be one of the most thorough promoted soaps out of all four soaps if Sony got off of their asses and really promoted this show like they do with Young and the Restless. I mean, for instance, Young and the Restless this week, what did they do? The number one soap. They promoted that Victoria Rao and Shamar Moore and Michelle Morgan would return to Young and the Restless to bid farewell to Christoph St. John in where? Entertainment Weekly. And then a lot of times Y&R they get all the pop PR when it comes to television, like Entertainment Weekly, Access Hollywood, and such. But Days doesn't get that. They don't get that. I remember when Days of Our Lives was hot, hot. When I first started watching it back in my preteen years, okay, in the 90s. And it was John, Marlena, Bo, Hope, Sammy and her antics, Stefano and his, Queen of the Night antics, and Kristen and whatnot. That show was the consistent number 2 rated soap for 5 years at least. And it was the number 1 soap in 18 to 49 most of the time. Um, then for whatever reason, whoever came up in there in the early 90s on to now, they have literally just have not given a damn about Days of Our Lives in terms of promoting it, giving it the promotion it should. You would think with all the hot new young stuff that they got going on right now in Days of Our Lives, that would get so much pop PR. I mean, especially Sin. You got Robert Scott Wilson and Victoria Carnival right now. Hot like fire. That couple is hot like fire. You mean to tell me they're not on things like the MTV Music Awards, MTV Movie Awards, giving away an award. You're not seeing Victoria Carnival and things like Teen Beat, and you're not seeing Robert Scott Wilson and things like those men's muscle magazines, as gorgeous as he is. I mean, you could really promote Days of Our Life. They got a lot of youth going on right now with their current storylines. In that crowd of like the 20s and 30 something crowds. And I don't see none of that on Entertainment Weekly. I don't see none of that on Entertainment Tonight and Access Hollywood. So I'm feeling Corday on that. As for the deficits that Sony is howling about, look, we all know all 40 soaps do not push the numbers to give any kind of return investment to their production houses and their networks to pay the bills. Hates why when it comes to Days of Our Lives and Y&R, you always see all these constant overhauls with characters, if you get my point. Like Days of Our Lives, they have it the most. They always have like, oh, we'll bring back Nicole for about 10 episodes and then she's gone again. Then they'll bring back Teresa. She's back for like 2 months and then they disappear her again. It's like there's a lot of overhauls when it comes to the cast a lot of times, and these short storylines and whatnot. And I sense that that's money matters. That's definitely money matters, because let's be real and let's be clear. A Teresa Jen Lilly should still be on Days of Our Lives, regardless if you like the character of Teresa or not. She is an important character on that show. Same thing could be said for other people after her that may or may not get the same kind of storyline punch. You get my point? So it's just, I believe that there is that, but again, if Sony isn't doing its part to promote the show and to really go above and beyond to try to save this show on their end, how do you expect? I mean, Corday can only do but so much. I mean, I'm pretty sure Sony believes that the only thing that Days of Our Lives can do in terms of promotion is that Day of Days. But Day of Days is like what? Towards the end of the year? It's like, it's so annoying, so frustrating, because it's like Days of Our Lives should be, everywhere. Like I said, in terms of its pop culture, from commercials to other TV shows, movies, award shows, and it's not there. I'm surprised that still a little over 1 million people a week still watch and know that it's still on. Days of Our Lives could be at the top of 18 to 34 because they have a lot of young on that show that is pushing hella good storylines. But for whatever reason, I feel like Sony just doesn't care about it enough, like they have pretty much have said in this article that, oh, well, Y&R is still the number one soap, and I'm just thinking to myself, I like Y&R, but Y&R has been on a downside too. It's been on its own version of a downside. It hasn't had like monster numbers since Chuck Pratt has left the door. Okay. And not to say I want Chuck Pratt back. I'm just being honest. I'm being real. I'm being real. Okay. When that show was last hot in terms of its numbers, uh, it was good. But Weinar has been shaky in the ratings for a long time, for the last couple of years. So don't give me that bull job that because Weinar is the number one soap, they're entitled to all this promotion. I mean, I guess so. I guess. But at the same time, it's like, I know they got eyeballs. Even if you're not watching every single day, you can't tell me that for the last 2.5 years, you can sit there, which are two, maybe four eyeballs if you got glasses, that you can't sit up here and tell me Days is not a much improved and better, if not entertaining soap compared to the other three. I mean, Days of Our Lives has its tiny little flaws, but it's not as frustrating to watch as like a Bold and the Beautiful or Y&R. General Hospital has, it's okay. John Lindstrom is pretty much saving that show in my book. But for the most part, General Hospital is not that awesome. It's not. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, I feel like Days has been the most consistent soap of them all. And I feel like what's happening, and I hate putting this out there in the ether, but I feel like Days of Our Lives is getting that Santa Barbara / One Life to Live treatment. You know how Santa Barbara had like 3 million, 4 million people watching that show, and then by the time 93 hit, it got canceled? Think if Santa Barbara was still around now with those numbers, it would be the number one soap. It would hop over Young and the Restless, okay, if it had its longevity. Same thing could be said for One Life to Live. One Life to Live was one of the most consistent soaps out of the bunch during that time period, out of like the 7 or 8 soaps that were around. And then all of a sudden Disney and ABC was like, no, we got to get rid of the soap, along with All My Children. I mean, they really wanted to get rid of One Life to Live because they looked at that as the ugly stepchild to All My Children. But because All My Children, One Life to Live were so closely linked together, it was like, get rid of both of them. And so now we're just left with General Hospital. So I'm just like, this whole thing is just, it's hurting my heart, because I got this irky jerky feeling in my head and in my heart that Days of Our Lives might end up getting blackballed in all this. Because let's be real, Sony has way more powerful lawyers than Ken Corday does. Yeah, Ken Corday might have his own powerful lawyer team, but Sony is probably going to have the way bigger, lawyer punch. But I'm glad that Ken is fighting, but I wish he would have did this sooner than later. I'm just scared. I am. I'm scared as a Days of Our Lives fan, especially watching this show as consistently as I have ever since the 90s and has been a fan. I'm not too optimistic where this show is going to stand in the coming months, if so happens Ken Corday cannot find a production team that is not Sony. I'm pretty sure that there's many out there, but I don't know. That's gonna, it's gonna suck if he can't find one and he gets out of that contract. He won't be able to find one. That's gonna put Days of Our Lives in so much jeopardy, because you gotta have that production crew, major production company to back you, especially when networks are trying to get you canceled or whatever. And if he doesn't have that production company to back him. I just don't know how long Days of Our Lives is going to be with us. I'm just, ugh. Just the thought, it don't sit well, but I'm going to try to find a little bit of optimism. But reading that article did not make me optimistic because it just seems like to me Sony is still hell bent on trying to get Days canceled. I've been hearing that whole whisper mill for like ever since the mid 2000s. That Sony has been wanting to do that. They've been wanting to get rid of Days of Our Lives. Even when Days of Our Lives was still making like 3 million viewers a week, they were still trying to find ways of like, we got to get rid of this soap. It ain't making no money like it used to. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to make a long video about this, but it just makes me mad. It does. It makes me mad. I actually agree with Ken Corday on something where you're finally coming, I'm a Gemini, he's a Gemini. We both understand each other on this, that, yeah, Sony, you're not doing your part to promote this fucking show. Maybe if you did your part to promote this show better and actually go above and beyond for this show, maybe you'll see a little bit more return on the investment because I think younger viewers wouldn't mind seeing young, hot sexiness on their screen. Now, yes, when I was growing up, when I was a young kid watching soaps, I wanted to see the adults. I wanted to see how they did their thing. But in this day and age, teenagers, young 20-somethings, they might want to see a Sin. They might want to see a Haley and JJ. Okay? They might want to see Gabby with Stefan, played under Baron Barish, which I cannot wait. But yeah, that's my point. It's like they got a lot of good stuff on that show, and it's going to waste because Sony's not trying to promote it, and it sucks. It really just sucks. But anyway, rate, comment, and subscribe again. The link is at the bottom. Let me know what y'all think, and I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.